Hello and welcome to Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I am Precious Chupidi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, and we're starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with federal government states to spend 19.16 trillion naira on wages, pension, others in 2023. The rider says earmark 11.4 trillion naira for capital projects. Southwest top zone with 3.73 trillion naira. North Central list with 1.68 trillion naira, and the Imo budget awaiting presentation to House of Assembly. Lagos state budgets more than that of Southeast, Northeast, Northwest, and North Central zones. Federal government votes 6.31 trillion naira, or 30.8% of its total expenditure for debt service in 2023. We can see a photo story rather showing Buhari meets Biden. We can also see on page 6, blasphemy, Kano cleric Abdul Jabbar sentenced to death by hanging. Reps want IGP to investigate attack on Kogi PDP senatorial candidates. On page 6, Seriki, Nigeria's envoy to Spain, dies at 63. We're still at mercy of Boko Haram terrorists, Borno Speaker. NDDC board legislators disagree over Onoche's nomination as court hot screening. Excitement as federal government opens second Niger bridge to traffic. Stories above. We have Nigeria decides 2023. Atiku Kwankwaso Obi Tinubu promising Nigerians everything. World Bank lowers of Nigeria's growth projection to 3.1%. The PENGASSAN blames the downstream operators for petrol shortages, hike in price. On page 7, organ harvesting, EFCC responsible for my detention in UK. Ekweremadu tells courts. On page 19, last year on the front page of Vanguard newspaper, we have consumer inflation hits 17 high, rises to 21.47%. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with EFCC recovers 30 billion naira from Accountant General Idris. The Rider State Agency remits 136 billion naira in 7 months. Our politicians under watch. Rising food prices push inflation to 21.47%. Stories above. Buhari, Tinubu, Sanwo-Olu orders more on Seriki. Biden praises Buhari for deepening democracy. Bank rolls out new naira notes. Adeleke Oyetola trade words over 407 billion naira debt. Nigeria secures a $9 billion dollar loan. And last year on the front page of the Nation, we have marketers behind petrol scarcity. High pump price, says Pengassan. Let's move ahead to The Guardian. The Guardian is leading with banks ration new notes as the circulations trickle. The writer says payout in old notes, complaints of limited supply. Emefiele writes a rep, defers appearance. Lawmakers push someone to next Tuesday. Ibadan residents yet to see new naira notes. Banks in Kaduna, Kano limits payment to 2,000 naira and 3,000 naira. We have on page 3, EFCC behind London court travail. Ekweremadu tells judge. Adeleke alleges Oyetola left 407 billion naira debt, got more loan after losing Guba polls. But it can never be part of Biafra, says Governor Umahi. It will take North 40 years to catch up with South, says World Bank. We can also see as year ends, sad tales from states over unpaid salaries, arrears. Biden invites AU to join G20, plans a visit to Africa in 2023. All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with banks run out of new naira, demand soars. Cashiers ration new notes. Lenders allot 100,000 naira per teller in banks. Suspicious customers snub new notes as local traders reject new currency. Court declines to stop CBN withdrawal policy. Emefiele writes meets reps Tuesday. You can see a photo story showing tanker fireworks or your community destroy property. Page 10, Seriki death shocking. Buhari, Tinubu, Sanwo-Olu mourns. Tearful relatives, friends send the Samiposu home. EFCC protests as Ekweremadu blames Commission for Detention. Stories above. Inflation pushes 5 million into poverty. wage value down 35%. PDP APC clash as Biden hails Buhari. Diaspora Nigerians to renew passports on arrival. And that's how we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining, still today in the News on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Dr. Tayo Batero. He's a journalist and former head Department of Mass Communication, UniJoz. Good morning, sir. It's good to have you join me this morning.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here too.
All right, let's move into the papers, and we're starting off with this story. Now, according to reports, the federal government and 36 state governments, are to spend the sum of 19.16 trillion naira on payment of salaries, pension, emoluments, and others in 2023. What are your thoughts on this? Looking at the fact that Nigeria is really deep in debt.
Yeah, well, there's nothing much to expect to be different from what we've been having. That has been the trend over the years. We've been having a lopsided allocation in favor of recurrent expenditure because the private sector that should provide alternative employments are not doing very well. So government still remains the largest employer of labor. So that is to be expected until we develop our private sector to the level where they can match or even surpass government in terms of employment. We'll continue to have things like this. In a lot of the states, as that report indicated, most of the people who earn salary are civil servants. The private sector does not employ many people, and so government remains the largest employer of labor, like I said. But the problem with that is that development will be stunted because imagine just a mere 11.4 billion now just for capital expenditure. Then it means that development will just continue to slow down, because when we spend more money on salaries than on development projects, then development will not be what it's supposed to be. So it's not surprising. And the truth of the matter is that if you go by the inflationary rate itself, people may be demanding for more salaries, which means this will even go higher than this. But we hope that somehow we'll get to a level where we'll be able to push our private sector to employ more people, much more, or close the gap between the people that government employ and the people that the private sector employs. Otherwise, this trend will continue for some time to come.
As has become the norm in recent years, like the proposed budget is heavy on deficit, and the deficit will be financed by new borrowings. And yet, Nigeria still do not know how these loans will be repaid. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we're in a crisis, and it doesn't appear as if the people that are causing us are even conscious of the implications of all this. They just go and obtain loans with such ease that you wonder whether they are thinking about how to pay. But I think what is driving this is because the leadership mechanisms have not been put in place to check. We should stop taking loans for recurrent expenditure. Because so long as we continue to do that, it will aggravate our problems. If we take loans for capital projects, we know at least such projects will serve the people or will pay back somehow. Where we are taking loans to subsidize or to pay for salaries, recurrent expenditure more, then that's going to be a problem, and the payment is going to be more and more difficult, given what the economy is speaking now. We're talking about our oil revenue dipping, and yet we are taking more and more loans. Where are we going to pay? Get money to pay. So that's a real problem, and I think it's time to really have a talk on this and find ways of reducing the level of debt that we are incurring, because it's like mortgaging the future generation, and it's going to be a very bad situation for us in years to come.
In 2006, actually, Nigeria became the first African country to settle its public debt under a scheme devised to help the world poorest and indebted state. And 15 years after, we're seeing that the public debt is high again, putting pressure on the government's revenue and performances. What exactly do you think that the government should do? Because, they're saying that we can't do without borrowing. We can't do without borrowing. How can they holistically look at the situation and, remedy these the decisions that they make in terms of borrowing?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, so long as we borrow for recurrent expenditure without provision for how to improve our economy to a level where we increase our income, be able to pay back the debts, then we're going to continue to have this problem. And then after some years again, we'll go back and be pleading for debt forgiveness. It's going to, and then we are also sending a very wrong signal. So even our creditors, because when they forgive us or we have a kind of arrangement where debt is reduced, and after some years again we go back to the same situation, then we'll not be taken seriously and we'll be seen as people who are just taking advantage of the situation. So just like I said, we need to have a dialogue on this so that our governments will be made to think less about just taking loans to pay recurrent expenditure. We must develop our economy so that we can earn more money, the GDP will increase, and then we'll be able to reduce our debt level to a very manageable minimum level. And then when we take loans for the current expenditure, what that means is that there's no way, no projection for repayment, and that will just mean that we continue to take more and more loans to be able to foot our weight bills. So my suggestion would be that there should be a strategy of using loans to push or to execute capital projects that can yield returns that we can use to pay our debts. That way, we'll be able to reverse this situation, even if not completely, at least a little bit.
All right, so let's move ahead and let's talk about this one. Former Deputy Senate President Ekweremadu has actually accused the EFCC of being responsible for his continued detention in the UK. Now, according to him, he said that he would have been released on bail if not for a letter that was forwarded by the EFCC to the London court. What do you make of this situation with Ekweremadu?
Well, I read the story, and but I didn't see what he said. He didn't provide the content of the supposed letter from the EFCC. So we don't know what was in that letter. But for me, what is the connection between the offense he was said to have committed over there and EFCC? I don't think they are the same thing. And knowing how those systems run, they will not listen to any dictation from anybody as to whether they want to grant somebody bail or not. If they have any issue against him, if EFCC has any issue against him, that would be a separate thing. And it will be treated separately, the way I know that system. So I need to be educated because based on what I read, he didn't really state what EFCC has sent to the courts to warrant his continued detention. I think they are following their own legal system, and I don't see anyone being able to dictate to them. They are not like our system. So if he has any issue with EFCC, I'm not too sure it will have anything to do with the current case he has in the UK.
All right. PENGASSAN has also blamed petrol marketers and all the operators of the petroleum downstream sector for persistent shortage of petrol in the country and the current rise in pump price above government approved rate. And in this week, we got to find out that according to reports that some marketers were intentionally hoarding fuel just so that they could increase the price. What do you think about this?
It boils down to the issue of the supply chain. The marketers are able to hoard if the level of supply is not up to the optimum. If what we have seen over the years is that when the NNPC pumps sufficient fuel to the marketers, they are not able to hoard. Even when they try to hoard, they will need space to take the ones that are coming. And so that eliminates that aspect of it. But so long as there is scarcity, the marketers, of course, we know them that That is what they capitalize on to make their money. So if we are saying it means that we have enough to sell. Because so long as there is scarcity, if the supply is not sufficient, then we know that they will always play tricks because they want to make their money, they want to make more money. So much as they might be guilty of hoarding, the solution lies with the NMPC and government to make sure that there is no supplies, so that that way, if there is a lot of supply, it will defeat the essence of hoarding, because the availability will neutralize any attempt to create artificial scarcity. So my feeling is that the supply is still not sufficient. That is why the marketers are able to hoard. But we know that is what they do, and especially given that this Christmas time, when they know a lot of people will want to travel, so they want to capitalize on it to make their money, and they are already doing that already.
All right. In this year, there were talks on the removal of fuel subsidy, but as it stands now, no government has been able to succeed to remove fuel subsidy, and even the current administration has passed it on to the next administration. What do you think about it?
Well, the subsidy issue is surely a lot of controversy, because people are saying that where is the subsidy really? And some people have alleged that people in government are just using it to siphon money, because this same government that has increased it to even higher levels promised that there was nothing. When they were campaigning, they said there was nothing like subsidy, and they will eliminate it. But they've been in government for close to 8 years now. Another that is been improving, it is actually worsening. So there must be something about the subsidy that we that are outside government do not know. But what is clear? What is clear is that something needs to give at the end of the day. And you say you are removing subsidy, and you do not care about the effect on the population. Then that is another dimension. We're already talking about the high cost of recurrent expenditure. If you are removing subsidy, then labor will demand for additional salary for workers, which means you have to also, whatever you are making or saving from subsidy, you have to deploy it to payment of additional salary for people, because they will say that the salary is insufficient, the current salary is insufficient to cope with the inflationary rate that will arise as a result of the removal of subsidy. So there has to be a kind of balancing. Otherwise, you don't create one problem in trying to solve another. We'll just continue to wallow in this kind of situation. So government has to try to balance it, because if they are removing subsidy, they must also expect that labor will demand for a kind of increase in wages. That will also require providing money for that. So is it that they would save money for subsidy and now be using it to pay additional salaries? Well, that remains the question. So we need to know all the facts for us to be able to do a proper analysis of the situation.
All right, now let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. Mrs. is speaking. She says, I need a 300,000 naira for chieftaincy ceremony of my dad. After that, my uncle is giving out the hand of his daughter in marriage, and Mr. says, "Oh God, why didn't you create me like Adam? He was the only married man without in-laws."
Yes.
He truly was.
Well, it's a bad dream. It does happen.
Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tayo Bateru. He's the former journalist and former head Department of Mass Communication Unit. Just thank you for sharing your talk with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. We're moving straight into the Christmas week, and I'm sure I don't know what it's like, because I remember when we went to the market, it wasn't really easy. People are not really buying so much, but whatever it is, no matter how little it is, just make sure you surround yourself with your family, your loved ones, and have a good one. And I am Precious Chikudi here. Thank you for watching.